Hello, minders everywhere. Welcome back to the Mind Watercolor, where we look at the brain of this incredible medium, try to figure it out. You may or may not remember a few weeks ago I did these 4 thumbnails and then took this one and took it to a finished painting. Well, we're going to do the same thing. I really wanted to do this one. I love the idea of this fat tree with the dappled sunlight coming through. I'm going to change up the colors just a little bit, but we're going to go through and show you how to do this, and I'm going to use watercolor and gouache, so it should make for a great demo. Hope you enjoy it. Everybody give it up for my studio assistants, plural, Reese and MG. They're busy discussing how they're going to divide up the Halloween candy. MG, you get over that stomach ache yet? Well, maybe you could explain to me how that even happens for you. I mean, you know what? On second thought, I don't want to know. Anyway, on to the demo. Okay, well, these are the 4 thumbnails again, and I really loved that one in the upper right. This one down here is the one, of course, that I did before, did a full-size kind of translation to, but this one up here had a lot of possibilities. I want to change those green tones to kind of golden tones and warm the whole thing up a little bit. But I really like the possibilities for edges and edge highlights. So that's what we're going to do. And I'll just quickly draw it out here just to get my elements mapped out. I won't use any mask on this. A good place to have used mask here would have been those edge highlights where the light kind of crosses over into the dark bands, and this has a lot of light and dark bands. It's like light streaming through from the upper right. So it's producing kind of a mottled sunlight, sort of a break in the tree cover, that idea. And then sunlight, is hitting the ground and the tree and all that stuff. And so that produces bands of dark and light. And along those edges, you can paint around, but it's usually a good idea if you want to do the whole thing in transparent watercolor to maybe highlight some of those edges with masking fluid. And I did that in the other one that I took to a full size. And so I toned the whole background with a nickel azo yellow, which is sort of a greenish gold. And I kind of beat that up a little bit with nickel quinacridone gold. So everywhere that shows through transparently, it's going to be very light, very bright, very golden. I did that instead of the green that we had in the thumbnail. And here I'm just establishing with a fairly wet in wet technique, establishing where those bands of shadow and light fall. And I'm going to do as much of those edges as I can with paint. The dark edges, obviously, you don't need masking for that. And you'll see me work on those a little bit more. But I've got sort of a soft lay-in done. And now I'm going to go ahead and lay in that tree, that really dark. It's going to be darkest at the top and come on down. Really excited about the possibilities of how to treat the light on this tree. And yeah, it has sort of a fantasy feel to it. I kind of was heading in that direction. It's one of those situations, where one of those trees that you'd love to just kind of lean back against with a good book, maybe take a little nap. A Rip Van Winkle tree. Could put a Rip Van Winkle asleep against that tree. Love painting trees. I can't get enough of painting trees. So many different ways of character that you can give them. I'm just going to bring in some dark tones towards the top of that. Some of it would be leaves for that tree. Some of it would be background. I'm just going to start working that across. And we'll give you some interludes here of music. A lot of this is pretty self-explanatory as I work on it. And up to this point, everything is transparent watercolor. I'll let you know, and it'll be pretty obvious, I think, when I start getting to the gouache. There's not a lot of gouache going to be in this. So you can see me working these edges, the dark edges. And that, of course, I can do with transparent watercolor and get those more or less detailed the way I want them. We're getting pretty close to establishing how the values are going to work in this painting. And I'm going ahead and establishing a lot of those dark details. That'll help me match it with the lighter details when I start adding the gouache. All right, so here we go. That's pretty much most of, except for tweaks later on and at the end, this is mostly going to be gouache. And here I'm pointing to where those highlights are going to be. There won't be a lot, but there will be some on the trees there and along those brush and underbrush edges. And I'm using titanium white gouache and some gamboge gouache, but I'm bringing in watercolor. Some of the same watercolor that I used in the transparent areas to tint that white gouache. It's totally fine. You can do that. And here you can see my purpose. With these little edge details, this is where gouache shines. I'm going to establish some sunlight patterns on that tree where it's sort of breaking through and hitting that. Super fun. This was super fun to watch this come alive, the light on this tree. I really recommend too that you change up your brushes sometimes and don't necessarily, while you could do everything with a round, don't necessarily do everything with a round. Sometimes I like to put in blocks of color with a flat. It really does make it look different, you know, gives the brush strokes a different character. You could do it all with a round, but just experiment and decide what you like. And we're getting close to being done. I'm going to add a few more tree branch details up in here. The tree is mostly neutral tint with some cobalt violet, a little bit of sepia. Wanted it to have a cool and yet, you know, tree-like warmth to it at the same time, if that makes any sense, compared to the background. All right, so we're done. Let's do the big reveal. Actually, I worked on this thing for probably a week after this. Not a lot of big difference, but just tweaking. If you follow me on Instagram, I will be posting a final. This is the first final. There are finals and then there are finals. When you're an artist, like, seems like you're never done. I'm pretty happy with that. We'll zoom in here and give you a look at some of these details. The only thing I changed and added later was a few more highlights, especially along the tree. And there you can see the thumbnail that gave birth to this painting. This is in my perfect sketchbook, Fabriano Artistico. Really had fun with this painting. Really did. And the thumbnail was just extremely valuable in helping me plan and work out this piece. Thanks so much, everyone, for watching. Thank you so much, patrons, for your support. I couldn't be doing this without you. We'll see everybody in the next video. Bye-bye.